Joining us now with reaction is the host of Kudlow on the Fox Business Network, Larry Kudlow, who's extensive experience in finances and the White House. Larry, the idea that we took our strategic petroleum reserve and much of that oil ended up in China, that is not what the president said he was doing.
Yeah, it's a very strange story. I mean, that's about as much. We don't have enough details, but some of these strategic petroleum reserves were exported to Europe and then through trading companies made their way to India and perhaps China. We don't know all that we need to know. I don't really understand. Look, there's a couple things here, Jason. Let's kind of break this down. First point is, I don't know why we have to export strategic petroleum reserves. What we should be doing is exporting LNG, okay? That's the key to help Europe out and reduce their dependency, particularly on Russian gas, but also Russian oil. That's what we should be doing. But, you know, no leases and no permits has stopped all that. So that's point number one. Point number two, oil is fungible. It doesn't really affect the price. You know, whether it's here or overseas, it's a world market. And I just want to say, what's happened more important? I mean, this is a dumb thing. Don't get me wrong. It's a very dumb thing. And they've gotten rid of, or by the end of October, they will have gotten rid of almost 50% of our strategic petroleum reserve, which itself is a dumb thing, because that's about energy security and national security, okay? But, what's going on is that Russia is selling heavily to India and to China. So Russian oil production is about pre-war levels because of those two customers. Now, they're selling at a discount, 25, 30% perhaps, but you're still $100 a barrel or more. So Russia's making a fortune. India and China are sustaining Putin's war machine. By the same token, because Joe Biden has a very far-left climate change policy, you know, all this craziness, there's no leases. You saw that from the Interior Department. They're not granting permits either for drilling or pipelining or refining. Now, this may change, you know, because of the Supreme Court decision, West Virginia versus the EPA, which is a terrific decision, and a lot of this stuff's going to be held up in court. But nonetheless, we're not getting the production of oil or gasoline because the Bidens are violently against all that. Meanwhile, Russia with China and India have blown up, they've completely blown up the oil sanctions.
But, Larry, what to me permeates this White House and this administration is one of incompetence. It reminds me of Jimmy Carter. I mean, Joe Biden was actually a senator when Jimmy Carter was the president of the United States. Those two guys have known each other. They kind of learn from each other. And the problem is the president stands up and says, Putin, Putin, Putin. And I'm going to release a strategic petroleum reserve to help stabilize the price of gas. And then I'm paying $125, $130 to fill up my F-150. And people are sick of it because this president doesn't know what he's doing and he blames somebody else. Why do we need Joe Biden if he can't get it done?
Well, that's an important question. I think you're going to get an answer come November when the cavalry comes and takes the House and most likely takes the Senate. It's probably going to be a landslide. I actually was a junior Wall Street economist during Jimmy Carter's period. So I actually remember some of those crazy mistakes. I mean, look, at everything Biden does is permeated by this, you know, leftist climate change Green New Deal. He really believes that we can abolish fossil fuels. He said it many times. And he really believes that this high price of oil will be ameliorated, mitigated with the use of renewables. And I got a bulletin for him. Fossil fuels, 80% of our power right now. The renewables, you know, maybe 4 or 5%. It's not going to happen. But they're stubborn and narcissistic and self-centered. So he's, you know, blamed Trump. He's blamed COVID. He's blamed Putin. He's blaming oil prices. He's even blaming gas stations because the intern who wrote the tweet didn't have Econ 101, according to the oil and gas.
That's right.
I love that tweet. I think it's absolutely fabulous. And I don't think Joe Biden understands it. I mean, I don't know what he knows. You saw his press secretary. She doesn't understand it. I don't know who understands it. All I can say is we are not going to end fossil fuels. I mean, maybe we will in 100 years or 150 years, but it won't be any sooner than that.
Yeah, Larry, it is clear. Transportation Secretary Buttigieg doesn't have a clue. The Energy Secretary doesn't have a clue. The Commerce Secretary said she doesn't have any answers. They don't have any answers. Larry Kudlow, thanks for joining us tonight on on Hannity tonight. I really do appreciate it.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.